parents that may have left their kids at home, went to work, and thinking they're getting on the bus, and they're not.
Unexpected chaos and concern for IPS parents. The school buses didn't run today because so many drivers didn't come into work. A major disruption in the education of tens of thousands of IPS students.
And the IPS administration and union leaders will be working throughout the weekend to have a backup plan ready for Monday if needed.
Here's the impact. Just today, about 95 employees did not show up for work. That includes monitors and drivers. There are about 32,000 students enrolled in the district. About 14,000 made it to school today. That's less than half. About 22,000 rely on school buses to get to school.
We have team coverage tonight, hearing from parents, the district, and the union. RTV6's Megan Sanctorum starts our team coverage tonight live outside Crispus Attucks High School. Megan, what are people there saying?
Well, all of the IPS schools were open today for students who were able to get a ride or lived close enough to walk to school. But I can tell you the classrooms inside of here were pretty bare today. We spoke with one student who tells us one of his classes only had 4 people in it. District leaders tell us in total, more than half of the students in the district were absent today. The bus lane is empty, and many students spent the day at home.
Is a travesty, and it's extremely upsetting. I think that, we don't solve problems by putting our students in the middle and asking them to absorb our concerns and our discontentment.
She tells us more than 70 of about 300 bus drivers called out today, forcing the district to cancel all transportation service, putting thousands of kids at risk. Not only causing students to miss a day of school, but meals as well. Hundreds missed breakfast that they rely on. IPS partners with Gleaners Food Bank to provide back sacks on Fridays. Many students missed out on that resource as well. That's prepared food kids in need can take home and eat over the weekend.
To know that you would have that level of negative impact to go against the guidance of the leadership of the group that represents you is nothing short of rogue behavior.
And while some parents were left scrambling to find ways to get their kids to and from school, other parents say they stand with the drivers.
Kudos. I commend you, because I don't feel like that was right. I feel like some of them been driving for 20 plus years. Now all of a sudden they got to reapply for another position for another company. That's not right.
District leaders tell us they are working to get this resolved, and they hope to resume normal transportation services on Monday. We will let you know as soon as we learn more. Working for you, Megan Sanctorum, RTV6.
Megan, thanks. And the impact of bus service cancellation felt across the city. Our Alyssa Donovan continues our team coverage and spoke with several parents about the frustration as the day started.
On an average weekday morning, this bus lot is almost empty, but these buses never even left today. Meanwhile, students were patiently waiting at their bus stops for a ride that wasn't coming. Others just had to skip the school day altogether.
Good morning, baby. Are you going to school?
Shawanda Tyson spent her morning driving around picking up kids from their bus stops.
Because they still need their education. It's important.
By the time she got there, students have been waiting for more than an hour.
We have parents that may have left their kids at home, went to work, and thinking they're getting on the bus, and they're not.
Indianapolis Public Schools sent out notifications to parents just after 6 a.m. that bus service was canceled. Coco Martin says she had a heads up a little sooner.
I think he might have been trying to give me a hint.
Yesterday, her son's bus driver slipped her this note.
He was just like, here, I want to give you this in case there's any, if there's any concerns or questions or cancellations.
So she just drove her son to school. But not everyone had that option.
I don't want my kids to stand out because I can't drive.
The bus cancellation, really emotional for Ariel Moore, who's housebound after having surgery.
Empathetically to families who now have to choose between going to work or just saying, I'm sorry, until they figure this out. Your friends get to go to school and you don't.
Without a bus, her daughter, who requires specialized education, had to stay home.
It segregates our kids more so than they already are. Not just the special needs kids, but anybody who is low income, who has to work. And it's going to be very obvious who can afford to take their kids into school on their own and who can't.
The first grader also has an IEP, or individualized education plan.
It has all these stipulations for her for school, and one of them is transportation accommodations.
Moore says she's well within her rights to file a complaint about the lack of transportation for her daughter today, but she's going to let this one go and hope the bus issues get resolved. All the parents we spoke to today had a similar sentiment. Whatever's going on between the district and their bus drivers, keep their kids and their education out of it. I'm Alyssa Donovan, RTV6.
And IPS says they are expecting parents that have children with individualized education plans to be filing complaints about the lack of transportation.
RTV6 team coverage continues with comments from the drivers union. Tonight, union reps say it's too early to jump to any kind of conclusion about the flurry of sick calls. RTV6's Cameron Riddle has this angle of the story affecting thousands of families tonight. And Cameron, we're also hearing from the superintendent.
Yeah, that's right. A fired up IPS Superintendent Alicia Johnson is condemning the actions of 95 school bus drivers and attendants who she calls rogue employees. She believes they called in sick on purpose in retaliation for the district's decision to completely outsource transportation to the bus company First Student. But the union, whose headquarters we are live from tonight, says that may be jumping to conclusions. Johnson says the district will investigate the individual sick calls to verify that the employee was sick. Those who cannot verify their sickness could face disciplinary action. But Dave Robertson, union rep for IPS and Durham transportation staffers, says the union has continuously asked drivers to report to work while conversations continue with IPS and First Student. In the meantime, Robertson says the district needs to look at the bigger picture, just how important school bus drivers are for the district, which today was absolutely crippled without them. He says assuming that drivers called in sick on purpose doesn't help.
There's no facts that, folks wasn't sick. And this is the time, the flu season, right, is running rapid at this point in time. So I don't want to jump to conclusions and say that folks called out, in regards to this. But I will say that, if it is, we're not in support of leaving kids out there and not being able to go to school.
IPS is home to roughly 30,000 Hoosier students. 22,000 of them depend on school buses to get to school. The district says roughly half of the district's population, about 14,000 students, were able to get to a classroom today. We're live downtown at Union headquarters. I'm Cameron Riddle, RTV6.
And school administrators are working on plans for Monday based on the chaos that developed today.
Our Rafael Sanchez sat down with the superintendent asking if IPS will fire employees who do this again and getting insights into what the district was seeing before sunrise.
Late last night, they began to get indicators around the same time that we did that the number of calls was ticking up a little bit out of the normal range of just your normal, sick days or vacation days or whatnot, and certainly made concerted efforts to inform and recommend to folks that they not take this action. And so to have this number of drivers and attendants still decide to take the day off and impact our services in this way, despite what they were told by union leadership, what they knew what that would mean for the district, again, is reprehensible, is not acceptable.
The district is currently looking at ways to change how it delivers bus service in the fall of this year.
Correct.
Will this action in any way change your mind? Will you say, we're going to go back to the old way, or are you moving forward with the plan?
Yeah, we are moving forward with the plan. Our board approved that plan in January. We are working with our new partner, First Student, along with AFSCME and union leadership, and along with our employees to create as smooth of a transition as we can. Change is hard. That is undeniable. We know this transition is difficult, and we understand that not everybody was happy with that decision. All of that understandable and okay. But what isn't okay is to make a decision like this today that negatively impacts so many of our families and our students.
But if those workers choose again, they're not sick.
Yeah.
And yet again, 103 decide that they're just not going to show up. Will you call for their dismissal under the union rules?
We are able to do that with the collective bargaining agreement that we have signed. Then it would be well within our rights to do so, and we would make that decision at that time.
Ma'am, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And right now we have a digital extra posted on the IndyChannel.com. Raphael's complete conversation with the IPS superintendent, including her concern for students who missed key state required testing today and those who missed very important meals.